All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Kasanova podcast. I'm your host, Mikhail Canas. Damn, I can't even say my own name. I'm your host, Mikhail Casanova. Got the one and only Hotep Jesus on the show, man. Go ahead, introduce
Oh
people.
yeah, we are live. It's your man Hotep Jesus. I'm feeling good. I hope everybody out there is feeling good as well. Mikhail Casanova, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate this opportunity to provide my voice to another audience. What's going on with you?
Yeah, man, we chilling out here in Honolulu, man. Gotta,
Hawaii.
yep.
So if I book a flight out there, I could crash with you.
Man, I got a spot for you up in Waikiki. My wife and I got another place, so if you ever want to come through, I told Amazing Lucas's too, man. We got a condo that we actually own in Waikiki, so
Oh yeah.
yep.
Oh, I will be calling you. Hell yeah. What's going on, man?
we chilling, man. It's an honor to have you on the show, man. I definitely appreciate you coming on, man. This is huge for me, man.
Is it? Nah,
Yeah.
I'm nobody, man. I'm just a regular dude out here trying to get it, man.
Well, let's go ahead and get some introductions in, man. Go ahead and tell people about yourself, where they can find you, and definitely tell them about your book, man. Your book is fire,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, man. So you copped it? You copped it?
yeah,
What do you think about it?
man. I loved it,
Yeah,
loved it.
what's your favorite part?
Definitely on how to grow your audience, man. I've noticed how my channel has been just like not only my YouTube channel, but also my podcast and my website have just been growing exponentially.
Oh yeah?
Yes, sir.
Nice, nice. That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it. Um, so yeah, let me give a quick introduction. Um, the government name is Brian Sharp. That's where I publish my books under. I go by the name of Hotep Jesus, and I've been in the marketing world for over a decade now. My big claim to fame was working with Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and launching one of his consumer packaged goods. After that, I went on and I worked with Olympic gold medalist Carmelo Anthony, and I launched another consumer packaged good with him as well. And then from there, I kind of ventured into the world of digital
Mhm.
and mobile app marketing. So I've spent about the past, I want to say 3 years doing mobile app marketing, maybe longer. And I have my own app right now with the partner Simone. It's called Jiffitize. So if
Oh,
anybody has an iPhone, you download Jiffitize. Basically, what it allows you to do is steal gifs from Twitter. You know how like you see a gif on Twitter and you want it, and you're like, oh snap, like what'd you search? You know, a lot of times you'd be like, what'd you search to find this? Well, you don't have to ask anymore with Jiffitize. With only one tap of the button, you can steal that GIF you always wanted.
man, that's actually
Yeah.
really brilliant, though, man. Because that's something the GIF game has been getting insane lately, and you need stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, the meme wars is what's the I want to describe this perfectly. So the meme war was vital in getting Donald Trump supporters all on the same page, exposing some of the far left conspiracies
Hmm.
and just spreading information in a very unique way. And I don't think the powers that be were expecting or ready for the meme war. So memes are definitely the future.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. And where can they find you? What's your social media? I know I linked them all in the description down below, but where
Okay.
can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Vibe High, Vibehi. Um, and then I have a backup account just in case. That one's at Hotep Jesus, and Instagram just deleted my account. So I started start.
What?
Yeah, I came out as Trump, and then all my followers just pretty much, I guess, spam reported to me. So they sacked that account. So now I'm Hotep Jesus, the number 2 on Instagram.
All right, cool. That's what's up, man. So I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and get into this interview, man. Again, thank you for coming on. I
No
want to
doubt.
ask you, what made you decide to refuse the Democratic mindset, and do you think the Republican mindset is better?
So I never really understood for most of my life. I never understood the difference between Democrats and Republicans, the way it was taught to me as a youth was basically Republicans are the racist, you know? So I always had that mindset. When I heard Republican, I just thought racist, but I didn't have any context or evidence to back up that claim. So it was always a question mark in my mind. And then one time I was working with Harlan Hill on a mobile app project. Harlan Hill, you may have seen him on Fox News, but he was actually the product guy, and I was working on growth for that company for a short period of time. And I asked him, you know, what's the difference between a liberal and a Democrat? Because it seems like liberals aren't liberal and conservatives don't conserve. You know, and at the time he drew a blank. This is a guy in politics. He drew a blank. He didn't know how to explain it to me. So I decided to dive head in first and see what this stuff was for myself, and then draw my own conclusions and kind of, you know, figure out what these things mean on my own. So, you know, of course, Trump was the big spark for me getting into politics, because I definitely didn't want to see Hillary Clinton win. So I was definitely on the MAGA train, you know, riding up until election time. You know, before that, I would say I was registered Democrat, but, you know, pretty much not by choice. And I was mostly against voting for a while. But, you know, just recently I've decided that, you know, my dad always said I belong to politics, you know, and the way I speak and, you know, my passion behind my words. He's like, you should be a politician. He's always said that. And so, you know, with the whole new wave going on, I'm like, well, the right wing is definitely my platform. So, you know, it's red here on out.
Man, we got kind of a similar background. I actually went to college for marketing out here in Hawaii, and I was the same way when I was growing up. I would always ask my mom and my dad, like, what is the difference between Democrats and Republicans? And I was always told the same thing, man. The Democrats, you know, they're for the, well, they were told, I was told that they were for the people, and that Republicans were they were the racists. You need to hate them, never go for them. And it's just, you know, as I am now, I'm 29 going on 30. You know, the last year, this election cycle really opened my eyes to a lot of things. You know, it's been, you know, quite the ride. I got to attribute a lot of my awakening to like Amazing Lucas, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum. Their content really helped me wake up, you know. And then I saw you, you know, you took the nation by storm, my guy.
You know, being in marketing, I think the one thing that people miss out on marketing is the word relevance, and the other word is timing. So I've always been one that's really good with timing. I think some of it is intuitive, but just having good timing and knowing when to do something is vital. I remember a member of Hotep Nation, or a former member of Hotep Nation, was talking about aligning themselves with the right wing. And at that time, I was like, now isn't the time, you know? But you see that when we did make our entrance into the right wing, it was like at the perfect time, you know? So it's not always about the decisions you make, but when you make those decisions.
Yeah, that's very true, man. That's very, very true.
Oh, yeah.
And so would you say like, you know, that was, would you say like this past election and meeting up with the guy you were speaking about earlier, would that be like one of the things that motivated you into being active and speaking out, you know, not only on social issues, but on political issues and the normal narrative? I'm sorry about the
Nah,
noise in the background. We got
was
the Hells
airport.
Angels going by.
Oh, okay. Hell's Angels. All right. Nah, you know, that had nothing to do with it. I've always been an outspoken individual. It's at times it's been my downfall, being too outspoken. Social media has been great for being an outlet for me and therapeutic to get some things off of my chest when my surroundings don't allow me to, or the ears that I'm around are just closed to what I have to say. But I've always been an outspoken individual. I've always wanted to speak my mind. And I've been speaking about social issues. You know, you can go search my Twitter going back to 2011. You know, you can go see some of the stuff I've tweeted. But I've been on this thing, you know, much of my adult life, I'd say.
All right, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on? I know Donald Trump has basically popularized this, but what are your thoughts on fake news, and what is the purpose of the fake news?
Yeah, so there's this book that I suggest everyone get, and you should probably Amazon affiliate link it into the description below. But
Okay.
it's called How to Watch TV News. And in that book, the author explains that the media can create a crime wave, or they can kill one simply by reporting or not reporting on all of the instances that happen. In fact, there are so many dog bites around the country daily that if the media reported on everyone, it could seem like there's some kind of dog zombie apocalypse. This is how much power the media has.
Mm-hmm.
But the media's main issue or motive is to sell fear. Fear leads to clicks. So that's what they're in the business of, driving fear. And fear also, if you look at marketing or you look into advertising, they use fear to push you to sell. So fear is the main thing that's happening here. I've been talking about this, like, again, most of my adult life, that the media is fake. Don't believe the media. If you go look at my 2011 tweets, I've been talking about the corruption of the mainstream media. I've spoken about Operation Mockingbird, which has CIA operatives planted within the press. So this stuff, for me, isn't new. But one thing I love about Trump is that he says fake news, fake news. Like, more people have to be aware of how much fake news that we're getting and be privy to that stuff to arm yourself emotionally and socially, so that we can galvanize some sort of strategy moving forward that's not so dependent upon what the mainstream media says. So
Mm-hmm.
when the mainstream media says, oh, this week we're mad about kids in cages on the border, next week it'll be something else, and the week after that it's something else, and the week after that it's something else. You know what I mean? They always have something to complain about. But the issue there is, and I've said this with Black people as well, the issue there is the media can end up controlling you. So for Black people, I felt like when there's a shooting in Oklahoma, then there's a shooting in Cleveland and Detroit, and then New York, it seems like they can just control us and have us bouncing around the nation, marching from city to city, and never actually following the roadmap for our own plan. And that's what the media can do. It can keep you so distracted that you deviate from your main plan. And that's another thing the media loves to do. They just love to distract. It's a big, huge distraction from what's really going on in the world and what really matters.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Like, I'm amazed because I had to be careful whenever I go on my Facebook, and I've gotten to a point where I'm actually getting away from Facebook because I see so much liberal like indoctrination, and it's amazing. Like, a lot of people I know, they're constantly talking about how we need no borders, no nation, and how Hawaii needs to annex itself from America. And the funny thing, I did a video on this about how there's so much hypocrisy, especially out here in Hawaii, how they're for open borders and everyone should be able to come and go as they please. But yet out here in Hawaii, there's such racism out here. They hate white people, they hate Black people, they hate basically anyone who comes here that's not from here. And so it's like, how can you be for open borders and for everyone being quote unquote legal, yet you want to be, nationalistic at the same time? You can't have both.
Yeah.
So I've got called out like major. I got so much hate, people saying, man, I'm blocking you, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. And I'm like, well, I'm just asking the question.
Right. That's the hypocrisy of the left.
Yeah.
They forget their own beliefs and their own ideologies and allow them to be temporarily replaced by those pushed by the mainstream media. And that's how you know they're brainwashed, because they drop their own morals for whatever the TV says.
Yeah. And it's amazing, man. Like, it's going to lead to the next question of like, how do you feel? Well, I'm actually modifying the question, but how do you feel like the mainstream media is indoctrinating people? I think it's because people just tune into CNN and whatever Don Lemon says, they take it for just truth.
They use emotions. That's why you see the feminist movement and the LGBT movement gaining so much strength, because they use emotions to manipulate people. They never really give you too much facts or real hardcore evidence. They'll just throw some kids up on the screen or some people getting hurt, and then your empathy opens a portal to your subconscious mind. And then once they have access to that, then it runs amok and does whatever it wants. But that's the key. They just have to, split open your emotion. I always say to people, I say, in order to get to people, you first have to open a door to their heart. And it could either be through hate or love. So I always tell people I can get anyone to love me if I can make them hate me first. So I can piss somebody off. Once I piss them off, the door to their heart is open. Now I have access to them, and now I can turn them any way I want. But the hardest part is getting people to open up their heart. A lot of times people just have that representative that you meet, which is the fake persona, who is usually on best behavior. As long as they have that front up, it's a little bit hard to get to them. But once you can get them to open up that emotional portal, then, once you're inside, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true. And do you feel like why do you feel the left have become so unhinged and just basically intolerant of anything? Like it's insane how they're so quick to just call somebody a Nazi that supports Trump, or even someone who is probably not on either side of the political spectrum, and just doesn't see logic in the liberal mindset. They're considered a Nazi, and then you got groups like Antifa going out. And it's amazing how, aside from Fox News, other news stations aren't trying to cover Antifa or the liberal insanity. But what are your thoughts?
Well, of course, cognitive dissonance comes into play, but I think the deeper thing here is, for example, with you and I, we were taught that Republicans were racist from childhood. So what you've learned in childhood is very hard to erase as an adult. In fact, when there's a term for when the brain is met with evidence that contradicts what they currently believe. I forget what that term is, but there's something that happens within the brain where it almost wants to shut out the new information. So the problem is these people have a set of beliefs. And when you have your beliefs, and that's why, it's a Hotep proverb, investigate everything. Believe nothing, question everything. You want to have no beliefs. That's the only way you can grow. But the problem is the left has these beliefs that they're just not willing to let go or allow others to challenge. I have my set of beliefs, but the door is open for someone to challenge them, because I want to be able to mold and modify and grow as I see fit. But, that's the main problem. These people have been told for so long that Republican equals racist. Had I seen, my former self and I met up with, 18-year-old me, and I said I was a Republican, I'd probably be like, damn, what happened to me?
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, damn, I sold out. I grew up and I sold out. I just wouldn't be able to understand that. But that's what happens when you don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
And the left just doesn't have the facts. If they have the facts and allow their minds to try and understand them, then I think their view would change on a lot of things. But the left doesn't like facts; they just like emotions.
Well, that's all they go for. What's the thing Ben Shapiro says all the time? Facts don't care about your feelings. It's so true. It's so true.
It is true. It is true.
So, it seems that liberals have pushed a very anti-America stance, and this was especially. I'm not sure how it was up in New York, but I know out here in Hawaii it was especially seen during the July 4th. And so, why do you think we're seeing a push to essentially destroy the country? There's this push towards feminism, there's the gay agenda, there's globalism, and ultimately socialism and communism, which is, it's amazing that people want that.
Yeah. I think that the powers that be understand that there's control in chaos. You know, if you can create chaos amongst a people who can't think for themselves, you can always present yourself as a solution.
Yeah.
Also, chaos is profitable. Anytime there's any kind of uncertainty, you can present multiple solutions to said problem. But again, I think it's profitable for the media to have chaos, and I think that a lot of the chaos is created for election purposes. It seems like a lot of stuff died down like right after a major election. You know, the news goes on a different news cycle. But if you looked at leading up to Hillary Clinton against Trump, there was just like we were just inundated with all these stories of Black people dying. And I'm like, this is what they're talking about in that book, where they just create this, you know, crime spree, so to speak. But the elections is a strong reason why, you know, so they can say, hey, look at what's happening, vote for X, you know, to get their people in place. And I think that in the climate that we're in, that's probably the biggest reason why, outside of the ones that are hidden.
Yeah. What's that one globalist you're not supposed to say his name because he's
Soros?
Yeah, George Soros. It's so funny when I've tried to talk to some of my liberal friends, and I'm like, especially ones that are super into like Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, you guys know that he gave over 31 million to Black Lives Matter to fund them, and he's like, they're like, no, he didn't. No, it's a grassroots thing. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, look at the top donator. If you go to his website, which is I think the Open Society Foundation, it's right there.
It's right there on the website. And that was the first thing I did, you know, when Black Lives Matter came to power. You know, I just started clicking around and reading. A lot of people don't do that. They don't read. But the first thing I noticed on their website was the omission of fathers. You know, they said mothers, parents, children. I'm like, mothers, parents. Wait, isn't it mother, father? I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. And then, you know, the Soros name popped up. So I did my investigation on Soros, and I found Open Society. And you look at Open Society, it says right there, we donate to Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, there's the connection. You know, it's like Colin Kaepernick. You know, when you go look at, you know, who he's donating to, go look at all the top organizations he's donated that $1 million to. It shows how ain't Black folks.
I mean, it's just amazing when you take the time to just look into things and not do the knee-jerk reaction or get emotionally controlled. It's amazing what you see. And I tell a lot of my friends that are super hardcore liberal, I'm like, stop with the emotion and just look at it. I'm like, don't just go. And I know it's especially on Facebook. I know it happens on Twitter, but I see it the most on Facebook. People will just, they'll see something. It could say anything like Trump this or Republican this, and then they'll just repost it. And it could be fake. It could be something from years ago that has no relevance today, and they go with it. And I'm like, you guys don't understand that social media has now, it's a powerful tool. It can either help you get your message out, or it can be used to control you.
Absolutely. I mean, I just edited my book. I saw you linked it in your bio. You know, how to make money online. Free book I wrote, and I just cleaned it up today a bit. But yeah, you know, there's so much you can do on social media, and people just get trapped into what the mainstream media offers, or what, you know, the social media influencers offer, and don't really carve their own niche.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge problem.
So when it comes to immigration, I personally have no issue with people immigrating to America the legal way, and I support the building of a wall to reinforce our borders, secure our nation. I mean, we already have a wall, but it seems like the left wing liberals want our borders just wide open. They hate the idea of a wall, even though we currently have a wall slash fence, in place to act as a border. What are your thoughts on illegal immigration issues and the general hatred of having a secured nation? Because it seems like this is something that really went into effect under the 8 years of Obama.
Build the wall, damn it. Build the wall. If you whatever height you have it at now, double it. and extend it underground because they're gonna try and build tunnels. But yeah, man, we got to get that wall up. It's funny to hear people complain about Trump's policies on immigration when really he's just enforcing what was created under the Obama administration. If you take Trump's speeches or his views on immigration, you can superimpose them over Obama and they'd be almost identical. I think that people are afraid to admit that. But if you look at every other nation is hard on immigration, except for the European Union, as we're saying. And it seems like there's some sort of conspiracy to destabilize these nations, the Western world, which I'm going to have to do some more research on. But I'm against it. I think it's dangerous to let in the MS-13 types. I think it's crazy that you have people asking to abolish ICE when ICE is nabbing and arresting and detaining sexual traffickers. Is a huge problem. Jada Pinkett was talking about this, the human trafficking issue. A lot of those are Black babies, Black women, Black children. And I think that when we see that people are looking to abolish ICE, I kind of want to say that they're being controlled by the sex traffickers. Also, when you look up, I believe it's the DEA working with El Chapo to allow a certain amount of drugs into the U.S. as long as it landed in Chicago. There's a cooperation between the alphabet agencies of the United States and the drug cartels of the South of the border. And when we see things like abolish ICE, I have no choice but to think that these same entities that want to allow drugs into the United States have their hand in these political groups and controlling these political groups that want to abolish ICE. And that's what I see as the hidden hand behind this, abolish ICE thing.
Yeah. I know, especially out here in Hawaii, we have significant issues with human trafficking. That's actually why, it didn't make the news, but that's one of the reasons why Waikiki has been renovated so heavily over the last 5 to 7 years, is because it was severe human trafficking, prostitution. It was insane. You'd have tourists come here, they get snatched up. You'd have, women snatched up left and right, and it was so out of control, and it never made the news. It never would. And
yeah,
the immigration issues we have out here from people from other Polynesian islands, people from other countries coming here on visas, then they don't leave, and then they're able to take people's social securities, and and that's something it seems like the left don't want to talk about, as a real issue. And it got so bad out here, and I did a video on it as well, but there's it was a couple months ago, I want to say 2 months ago, where we had a Japanese tourist and his wife come out here, and they were severely beaten by a I can't even say the type of person, a group of people, a demographic group of people that are known to cause a lot of trouble out here. They ain't Black folks, so y'all can chill. Don't come in. But it's a certain a group of people that are known to cause a lot of trouble out here, and they beat up this Japanese guy so bad. They broke both his orbital eye sockets, broke his nose, broke his teeth, messed up his clavicle. His eyes were swollen shut. They choked out his wife. Come to find out she was pregnant. Uh, and Japan, the prime minister of Japan, told Japanese people not to come here anymore. Now, I don't think people in Hawaii understand how Japan is probably the biggest financial, benefit to Hawaii. And the left still don't want, especially out here, since this is a blue state, they still don't want to acknowledge that this is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, how many more people got to get hurt, snatched up for us to actually start talking about this?
It's something I try to wrap my mind around every day. It's the reason why I'm on Twitter and not other platforms, because on Twitter, I'm able to speak to somebody who's in the middle or somebody who's on the left and open some sort of dialogue up and sway them to the side of good. Yeah. But, I think that the best way to get through to people for me is humor first. And then making these unpredictable moves. So I've always been an unpredictable type of person. I like to move sporadically. I like to move based upon my intuition. So particular moves I might make will cause people to question me, and as long as I can make moves that cause people to question me, I can open up dialogue. When you're making moves that are pretty much predictable, people aren't going to ask too many questions. Yeah. So, it's the unpredictableness of it all that works for me.
Yeah, that's true, man. And, to add on to what you said, like Twitter is definitely the best way to communicate with the world. Facebook, I feel, is an echo chamber for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Instagram has a way of reaching out to people, but not as personally as Twitter does. Like Twitter is a very powerful tool. And I think a lot of people still haven't grasped that yet, especially if you're like a content creator, you're an author, or you're, anyone who's creative. Twitter is your best friend.
Twitter is your best friend. That's why I wrote my book, which you can get at booksbybrian.com, Brian with a Y. But yeah, I looked at it like this. All the other social networks, the audience are mostly just really common people. There's nothing special about them. And I felt like the people that were on Twitter were of higher IQ, mostly because you have to read, Instagram people, they just go there. They just want to see pictures. They're not really big into reading. So I felt like, first of all, the Twitter crowd is of higher IQ. Also, in order to be on Twitter, you have to have a higher IQ just to draw an audience, just to create a cult-like following, just to get a following. Instagram, anybody can post pretty pictures and get a following. Yeah. You got, any average bimbo with a nice ass can get a following on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but Twitter is where your intellect or your sense of humor is what's going to draw people towards you. So I always looked at it as, by being on Twitter, I'm talking to the tastemakers and not the common people. Yeah. And the funny thing is, the common people are I don't want to say controlled, but they follow or they do what the tastemakers say. They're influenced by the tastemakers. So if I influence the tastemakers, then I get the other people anyway. We call it the 80-20 rule. If I can get to 20% of the population, which are the tastemakers, then I'm going to get to the 80% through them anyway. So that's why I choose Twitter as my platform.
Yeah. That's definitely true, man. And I wanted to ask you, I know this is not a question I had wrote earlier, but since you brought it up, what do you think about the whole concept of IQ for people, like high IQ, low IQ? I think it's very real. Like, I want to get your take on it.
It's two sides to that. I think it serves a purpose. I think it's very real in its assessment. But the other side of this thing says that it only measures a certain type of intelligence. It doesn't measure creative intelligence, which I feel is vital as well. Also, the IQ test is pretty much based around your cognition within the society you live in, you know, and the language that you use and the math, that you use, and pattern recognition is huge in that as well. And it tests memory, which is good as well. But it's really based upon your association with the civilization. And I think it's sometimes unfair in its assessment, because you could be somebody living in a village somewhere in Africa, be a really intelligent individual, but not understand, high level math simply because it wasn't taught to you, or not understand, you know, English, so you can't even take the test. You speak a completely different language, so you can't even take the test. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might not even understand the concepts. So when we talk about the concept of prison, go on many years back, in antiquity, at that time, there may not even be a concept of prison in some societies. They may call it something completely different. I always say, if I made it my own civilization, we wouldn't have prison. We'd have some sort of real rehabilitation center. We wouldn't have a term called prison or detention. Those things wouldn't exist, because I feel like they exasperate the problem. They just create more mental illness.
Yeah.
So when you have these things that don't exist in other societies within the text of an IQ test, they might not even understand these concepts. So I think it's a double-edged sword, but either way, I think it's a good way of assessing intelligence in the Western civilization world.
Yeah, I agree with you. So moving on to our next question. You hear the term, we're a nation of immigrants, as a means to like virtue signal, among other things. And I often hear the Black community say this often as well. And honestly, I have to ask, man, like, does the Black community understand that the flooding in of immigrants actually hurts them? It seems like they don't.
Nah, they don't. They don't.
Man. It's so to my next question, why do Black people support the Democratic Party? Like, the history has shown us that they enslaved them, among other things, and Black community seems to hate, well, not all, but most hate the Republican Party. And they find it strange or most find it strange to find or meet a conservative Republican black person. Why do you think that is, aside from what we're taught as youth?
When you look at the so-called party switch, which I always say the parties didn't switch, the people switched. Mm-hmm. It just basically came down to handouts. The Democratic Party started giving out subsidization and welfare, and Black people came for the free chicken. It's as simple as that. If I was to throw a party, I always tell people, I say, you throw a party, you can have a cover charge, right? And then not really offer too much. You get some people to come out depending on who's going to be there. But if I throw a free party with free food, everybody and their mama going to come out.
Yeah.
So Democrats are the free picnic. The sad part is, the paid party is, the high price paid party is going to invite a particular type of clientele, which is going to be of higher status. When you have everything that's free, the people that show up to that party, you can kind of expect some fights to break out, some arguments to break out, and you're going to deal with lower status people. And that's what happens with the Democratic Party. You get a lot of lower status people hanging out over there because they're handing out free beer. Whereas in the Republican Party, now you're going to have to bring your own beer.
Yeah, that's exactly why Oprah is so popular. She was giving away free cars left and right, and that's why everybody kept going there, going to her show.
Exactly.
Oh man. So when it comes to the Black community, it seems that there's a perpetual victimhood mentality that is embraced to the point where it's the norm. And I want to ask you, why do you think that the Black community holds on to wanting to be the victim so much, and throwing out terms such as we are where we are due to slavery, or the system is set up for us to fail, and systemic oppression, and or even it's the white man's fault or white people's fault. Why is there a lack of accountability in the black community?
Because it's easy to blame your problems on other people. It's the reason why some people are successful and some people aren't. Some people just want to blame their circumstances, and some people, take their life by the horns and do what they got to do. The other reason is it's what I call a victim narcissism, and these people are just full of themselves, and
Mm,
they want to cry, cry, cry for sympathy, so they can get attention from people. I think it's a really selfish way about going about things.
mm-hmm,
But that's what it comes down to. These people are narcissistic. They use what what happened to them in the past, the bad events that happened to them in the past, to get retweets and likes and sympathy, um, and to steal people's empathy, to push an agenda. But it's the narcissism and the ease of not having to do. That's been Hotep's thing from the very start. It's about it's like, all right, fine, like racism exists, cool. Okay, cool. They killed Tamir Rice, and they killed Sean Garner, and Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. Fine, cool. We can't stop these deaths, right? And we're not going to stop these deaths through legislation. So how do we, what do we do? What's the solution? Because complaining is not going to get it done. And when we started providing solutions that came from an economic base, we were met with hostility.
mm-hmm.
That's how Hotep was born. They're like, "Shut up, Hotep! Shut up, Hotep!" And it's just like, "Yo, I'm providing like real life solutions." But my take on all this is, if you control your neighborhood, you don't have to worry about anything. So if police brutality is a problem, then maybe you should just have your own police task force, and then you won't have to worry about that. Hire your own police. Get your own mayor in office and control your own local politics, and then we won't have these issues. But when I said that, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you just want to be a part of the patriarchal system to control women's bodies," and all that dumb stuff. But that's my thing. Also, when I was preaching, I would say, "Hey, let's boycott the NFL," and then a lot of black men were like, "Yo, shut up, man! That sounds so stupid." Da 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 da. Boycott the NFL. I'm watching the games on Sunday, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe this isn't the best thing I should be saying online, because people just aren't going to get that. But then when you fast forward, here they are kneeling with Colin Kaepernick, and I'm like, didn't I tell y'all this like 4 or 5 years ago? But it's about taking your attention away from other things and moving it back into your community. And I just felt like it was so predictable for black men to be sitting in front of a television on Sunday, all day Sunday, where I felt like if those same black men who didn't give their attention to the TV set every single Sunday on Sunday took that same attention and put it towards the youth in their community every Sunday, every black man, we'd probably turn this thing around within, a decade.
Yeah. And one of the things I kind of want to get your input on it, but one of the things I've noticed, like with different communities or ethnic groups or races, other groups of people focus on education. They focus on skill sets, to not only better themselves, but for their future generations to come. And I know it's a lot within the black community. It's kind of looked down upon for like one to educate yourself either through college or high school, even having a skill set. Like it's kind of pushed, or at least I know it was for me, uh, with my family in the neighborhood I lived in when I was in Memphis before I came out here, um, was to focus on music or focus on sports and try to make it versus trying to get an education, whatever you want to define as an education, and getting ahead in life. Like, why is it that it's so shunned? Like, I don't understand why education is looked so down upon in the black community.
So yeah, it's like if you're educated, they call it white, right? You acting white.
Or a sellout or a coon. I'm called that all the time.
Yeah, it's hard. That's the bottom line. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's not easy self-educating. I don't have a college education. My parents got a college education. My sister's a doctor. My brother's a computer programmer. He graduated from NJIT. And, I always felt like because I was surrounded by people with a college degree, I didn't need one.
Hmm.
I was making money since I was 16. I was fixing computers and all of that. And then by the time I entered college, I already had the skills I needed to make money, and I was making so much money at the age of 20 years old, selling mortgages. It just didn't make sense for me to go to college. But over the years, the internet has grown so much that, you know, you can get an education on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've actually done that. So for instance, like when we talk about search engine optimization, you know people will ask me like, how do you get into that? And there's a guide in my book, booksbybrian.com.
Check it out, people.
Yeah, there's a guide in there, but it really came down to me spending over 20 hours actually just sorting through all the information on YouTube. And I'd watch a course. I'd spend like literally a whole afternoon watching a course on SEO. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now let me watch somebody else's course the next day to get some of the information the other person may have missed, or maybe some counter arguments. And then reading the blogs, and then maybe buying a course here or there, and then just filling in the gaps of what I would have learned. And then out of all of that, drawing my own conclusions and saying, nah, here's what SEO really means. Because these courses will sell you a dream. They'll sell you stuff that is may be the truth, but isn't really what makes the most impact for something like search engine optimization.
Hmm.
So in my book, I tell you exactly really what makes a difference in search engine optimization and what's really going to help you. So if you type in your search engine right now, why did the Kardashians date black men? I rank first for that search because this is a question I know people had on their mind, and we get, I think it's probably like maybe 100,000 clicks on that right now, or something like that. But it's just knowing what people want and getting it to them in a high quality form.
Yeah.
But again, that came from me doing hours of self study, and I think people are just, they're just lazy. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to educate themselves. But I spend most of my day just educating myself. Buying books, reading books, and just learning from other people. So I might not have a college education, but I've put in the hours that people would put into a college. I put in probably double that.
Yeah, I think people, when it comes to college, and I also think that's the other way the left is indoctrinating generations right now is through college education. But I think college sells this false narrative that you're gonna go there, you're gonna get this piece of paper, and then you're gonna be set for life. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, so I was working with a mobile app company, and they had a new girl just start, and we were having a conversation because I needed her to do some things. She was working underneath me, and I needed her to do some things. And then while I'm having a conversation, she just had like this blank look on her face. And I'm like, are you following what I'm saying? And she was too embarrassed to say that she couldn't follow along with what I was saying. She's like, no, I don't understand the thing you're saying. And I'm like, wow. So I asked her, I said, well, didn't you just graduate from college? She's like, yeah. I was like, what was your major? She's like, marketing. And I'm like, I'm using marketing terms. And she graduated from like, I think Brown or something like that, like one of these top universities. And I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, this girl just graduated for marketing, has a degree in marketing. I'm using current marketing terms, and I'm still speaking Greek to her. So I'm like, wow, like this college education really isn't worth much. To me, I think it's just more or less about college. The college diploma basically says this person knows how to meet deadlines.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty much what it is.
I work in IT, or I'm not. It's kind of weird because my position in my job, I'm kind of IT, but I'm also information systems because I manage a system platform.
Okay.
But you know, for me, I kind of fell into IT. Like, my whole thing was marketing. When I went to college, I had no direction. I was going to do biology, then philosophy. Then I was flip flopping all over the place. And, around the time I was like 25 or so, I kind of fell into IT because I was like, man, I was working retail, I was working for Microsoft. I was up in Seattle, and I'm like, I want to make money. Like, I don't want to make paycheck to paycheck. I want to make money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do I need to do? And then as a lot of these jobs, they were talking about how, you know, you gotta have so much years of experience. You gotta have, you know, this background or this degree. And so I remember going to, what's the name of that recruitment company? Tech Systems. And I did an interview with them. I told them, I said, look, you know, I don't have a background in IT. My background is in journalism, but I want to make sure that you know that I want this job. I don't know. I'm like, I'll study all the material necessary. Just give me the opportunity. I'll bust my ass. I'll make it happen. I was 25 when that started. I'm 29 now. You know, between my salary for my current job, the stuff I do on YouTube, my sponsorships on my podcast and other stuff, I'm making over six figures and I'm 29. And so
Nice.
I tell people, I'm like, going to college is cool and all, but when you get out in the real world, you need a skill set. You need knowledge. And learning does not stop just because you got out of college or got out of high school. It's a life journey.
Yeah, that's funny because I started out in IT. You know, I was around in the 80s with the Commodore 64 was the big computer.
Yeah.
So, you know, you had to code just to get a game to start, you know, and then we moved on to DOS. And then we moved on to Windows 3.0, and then Windows 95 was like this big breakthrough, and Mac was trying to catch up, or Macintosh at the time was trying to catch up. And then like right around 1996, my pops comes home from Prudential. Prudential is this big law firm in Newark, New Jersey, and he comes home with his trunk full of computers, and they're like broken or whatever. So he goes, look, you can fix up what you can fix up, and we'll sell them for, you know, $100 a piece, and I'll give you the money. So there's like 10 computers sitting in the living room. I had like one monitor, a couple of keyboards, and a couple of mice. So, and then they had instruction manuals. So, you know, you'd boot it up and you'd look at the error messages on the screen, and then the error messages, you'd look up in the manual and it'd tell you, hey, the motherboard is shot or the video card is shot or whatever it was that was shot. So then I was just snatching parts from other computers and seeing what worked. So, you know, out of the 10, I think I maybe got like maybe 4 or 5 functional computers working. So I made a quick $500, you know, with like a couple of days work. So, you know, I was in the IT world, and we've always had state-of-the-art computers. You know, we were burning CDs in, you know, 1997. CDs aren't even a thing anymore. You know, but, you know, we'd go to computer shows and build a computer from scratch. So, you know, I know about how to build a computer from the motherboard to the video card to the sound card, et cetera, et cetera. Hard drive, RAM, you know, all that. So then when I graduated from high school, I thought I wanted to be in IT because I was always around computers. So I ended up going to this school and getting certified by Microsoft, which is called a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. And then I was like 20 years old, and I was 19, I want to say 18, 19, I started working in the IT department at L'Oreal. And I got fired because I was writing raps on the job. You know, we in the middle of the office. I got my headphones in and I'm rapping, and people are like, yo, who's the kid in the corner rapping in the cubicle? You know what I'm saying? But the boss basically came, he's like, yo, you don't want to do this stuff. Your heart isn't in this, you know, your heart is in something else. And that's when I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm not into this computer stuff, you know? So then I left computers alone, which was a great, you know, background for me because it's helped me now. But IT is definitely a great place to be. And I'm glad I have that IT background because it helps me every single day.
I was going to talk about like when it comes to like marketing and working with different companies and brands, because, you know, I'm a relatively small YouTuber, but I've been blessed with the opportunity to work with, you know, especially in the gaming YouTube sector, like with like Sega, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, like, and I have bigger channels, like bigger gaming channels will reach out to me like, hey, how did you work with this company? And I'm like, networking, marketing, putting myself out there. And you know, I was talking to Lucas about it. He's like, man, you're like the information broker. He's like, if anyone needs to know anything, any contact, they go to you. I'm like, well, you know, I've always been the type to where if I want to do something, I go out and do it. I don't wait around for it. And I see a lot of smaller YouTubers, both in tech, gaming, or whatever industry, and they're all waiting around oh, I got to get this amount of subscribers for this company to recognize me. No, you don't. You got to provide yourself as being valuable to these companies.
Yeah, yeah. I spoke about that in my free book, which you got linked in the description. Um, but the truth is, if you make good content, it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have. Because I remember just being in the marketing department of a company, and just having a video with somebody talking about your product was a win for the marketing department. We didn't care if it had a 1 view or 1,000 views. If it was good content, it was good content. We'd find a way to promote it. So don't feel discouraged if you don't have a lot of subscribers. Make the content good. And if the content's good, it's got great lighting, etc., then the companies will work with you, man.
Yeah, definitely. I guess this is my last question I wanted to ask you, because I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a busy schedule. I don't want to keep you too long.
Appreciate that.
So my last question, it's kind of multifaceted, but what do you think the main issues are, or do you think there is an actual system that is holding down Black people that is potentially oppressing them? Do you think it's actually there, or do you think it's like the boogeyman, it's a figment of their imagination?
Is there systemic racism? I would say there is. I won't deny the existence of systemic racism. I mean, we see it in the World Cup. Today, France won, right? So France is majority African people, right? So I'm joking around and I said Africa won the World Cup. But really, it's just a system of racism, because what they did was they've depressed these other nations, these France controlled nations, so bad that they don't even have the infrastructure to support a soccer team. So then they take all the best players from the African nations, give them, dual citizenship or whatever, and have them play for the team. So I think there is some sort of system in place that does keep down African people. The thing is, that system is pretty weak. That system, um, to me, is almost non-existent. I think it's only there because there's no solidarity amongst African people. We're divided, and anytime you have a people that are divided, you can conquer them, as you know, with the divide and conquer tactic. I feel like African people have lost their footing in America through integration. When we talk about systemic racism, I feel like that integration was systemic racism. It was a system put in place knowing it would deteriorate the Black community, knowing it would degrade the Black economics. When we look at the Black codes, that the Democrats set up in the South, that is a system of racism. You had Blacks. They want to say, "Oh, Black people were picking cotton. They were slaves picking cotton." No, Black people were cotton owners. They owned farmland. And what happened was the Democrats post-slavery created these things called the Black codes, which made it illegal for you to be Black and own land. So those systems were put in place. Hillary Clinton and her husband, through mass incarceration, have put systems in place. Welfare is a system of systemic racism. When you destabilize our economy and take away our drive to want for more, when you say you want socialism or communism, I feel like these are systems of systemic racism, because all they're going to do is kill our drive and our capitalistic nature. So I think there are systems out there, but I think that through education and solidarity, they can easily be overcome.
Yeah. It's I remember talking to someone, and it's they're also a YouTuber. I'm not gonna name their name, but they do their daytime job is their teacher, and they make it a point. They've stated on Twitter and other outlets that they made it a point to tell their Black students that are in like fourth and fifth grade that because of the color of their skin, they're oppressed. They'll never be able to amount to what white students are able to do. And I think in a way that is indoctrination in the wrong way, and they don't even realize it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I hate teaching kids that. I don't teach my kids that. I teach my kids that you want to be your best because you just want to be your best, period.
Yeah.
I don't say you want to be your best because, some system's going to hold you down or you got to be better than a white man. Nah, you got to be better because you're my son, you know? And I want you to just be your best, period. And all these problems come tumbling down when you're the best, you know? But I do think there's systemic racism inside the public schools, the liberal controlled public schools do their best to hold back black kids, with special ed. I remember when I was a kid, they put me in special ed, and then eighth grade came around. It was time to go to high school, and then they tested me, right? So watch this. They tested me, and I test on like 11th grade reading level and 11th grade math or something like that. So I was, they took me out of special ed, and I test way above my grade. So then I get to ninth grade and I check my schedule and they put me in all level 4 remedial classes. And I'm like, yo, I just tested out all this stuff. And y'all put me in all this back in remedial. So my parents had to go to the school and say, look, no, put him in higher level classes. But they just do that. It was an Italian run city. So they were just doing that to move the resources towards, the Italian kids. And they wanted to put the black kids in the lower classes. So there is stuff that happens at the local level, but without a shadow of a doubt, these are Democrat-run institutions.
I think it's amazing when people push the whole white privilege thing, this whole attack on white males and white people in general.
Yeah.
I told one person, I said, well, I didn't tell him. I asked him, I said, what happens when they get to a point of if they do get to dominate the white people the way they want to, who are they going to go after next? Because the next group of people I think they're going to go after would be the Asians.
Oh yeah, you don't want no sauce with the Asians. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, you might talk about racism amongst white people, but you ain't seen racism until you've seen Arab racism, because Arab racism don't play no games. That looks like 1642 still towards black people. They got black slaves right now. They're trafficking black women right now. They practice slavery. I think slavery is the last nation in Africa to abolish slavery was sometime in the 90s. I want to even say 2004 for maybe Mauritania. So this stuff is still happening as we speak. So when people are so concerned with white people, I'm like, you don't want no sauce with these other races then, because if you think white people are bad, you get your ass whooped messing with somebody else.
And it's like when they want to talk about how America has a history of slavery and they want reparations, and then they want to be the same people to be lined up with like the Muslim movement and the jihad and all that. I'm like, y'all want to be teamed up with the people that are still enslaving us around the world? Like, really?
Well, that's it just comes back to the lack of education. They don't know. They don't know any better. If you don't know no better, you can't do better.
True. That's true. I guess we move to the end, just Q&A, and then we can wrap it up. So I got a question from Virtual Bros. He wants to ask, do you think the left is concerned more with equality of outcome or equality of opportunity? And can equality of opportunity be used as an excuse to take away our freedoms?
That question is loaded. They're not worried about equality, period. What's the next question?
We got Magnificent. He had a question. He's like, when will you have Magnificent on your channel?
Get Magnificent on here, man. Get him on here.
Let's see. We got another question from Virtual Bros. He's like, are left wingers more well, no, that's the same question. Can our equality of opportunity be used to create a Orwellian dystopia?
Can equality of opportunity be used to create an Orwellian dystopia? I hate when people ask questions like that. It's like you're using all these words that like dumb down your questions, but I'm gonna answer the question because I know what he's trying to say. But these educated cats, man. First of all, yes, yes, that's exactly what's happening. They are trying to use equality to install these Orwellian Big Brother type society. You see it with the body cams when we had, black people dying, right? You had black people
Mhm.
dying, and then DeRay gets up there. He's like, "Yo, we should body cam all the police officers," and I'm like, "Oh, really? Like an Orwellian society where everything's surveillanced?" you know. So yeah, it definitely, absolutely, equality is going to be used for that.
I know. I think you were speaking about this on your Twitter before about how people need to shift away from Google, using
Oh
Google.
yeah, yeah. DuckDuckGo. Use DuckDuckGo because the way Google works, they're prioritizing the search, and they're making updates all the time, and it's getting more and more favoritism.
Hmm.
So beware. So yeah, use DuckDuckGo. I think it's a bit more organic. Of course, for some things, you have to use Google. Like if I want to see like my World Cup scores, I'll type in World Cup, and Google has everything nice, pretty, organized. So
Yeah,
for some things, we still use Google for ease. If it's a breaking story or something like that, Google's going to have everything sorted and organized properly. But if you're like doing research, I use DuckDuckGo.
yeah,
I get better results.
yeah. Did you see that Google AI? I think they did a reveal of it a couple months ago, but it they had it call a store to make reservations or a restaurant to make reservations, and uh, you couldn't tell that was AI. I think that's scary that we're getting to that point.
Wait, what happened?
Google, they have this AI that they're making. They did a demonstration at the Google I/O event a couple of months
Mm-hmm.
ago, or I think a month or so ago,
Mm-hmm.
where they had it call a restaurant live, and it did the reservations. It had every human characteristic you could think of. It did all the pauses. You couldn't tell, the person on the other end couldn't even tell it wasn't human, and they had an it that kind of technology kind of it makes
Well, the
me.
average the average person working at a restaurant isn't that smart. Let's begin with that. you know, I worked at a rest. I used to work at a restaurant. I worked at two restaurants in particular. I worked at TGI Fridays and I worked at Olive Garden.
Me
And
too.
I had managers at both say the same thing to me. They said, "You don't belong here." Two managers, the same spot, at two different spots, said the same thing. "You're way too smart. You don't belong here." See, those people in restaurants are pretty stupid. I can tell you that firsthand. That's why they're messing up your orders. But yeah, um, AI, they're making AI pretty smart. It's pretty intelligent. It's not, getting anywhere scary yet to me. Placing a reservation is actually rather simple from a programming standpoint. There's only, but a few responses you could get. I think it's probably, much harder for other tasks, but, placing an order or something like that or making reservations probably isn't that hard.
I think that's the whole reason why we got these smart homes and all this stuff that's always like listening to everything that we're saying, just so it can learn in a way.
Yes. Yes. It's all collecting data. Yeah.
I think one of my last questions was, who do you think? Who? And I know you spoke about this on Alex Jones' show, about the people that are actually controlling the black media, because they ain't black folks.
Oh, shout out to the Root just went out of business. yeah,
Did they? Did they?
yeah, they just made an announcement. They begging Beyonce and Jay-Z to buy them out because Gizmodo Media is I think they're going up for sale.
Oh
And they're
wow.
shutting down or something like that. And Gizmodo Media is owned by Univision. So Univision is going to have a say so on the properties that Gizmodo Media owns. And the Root is one of the Gizmodo Media properties. But yeah, anytime you have a black voice that's controlled by something that's not black, you have to be careful. And these black voices are being controlled by things like Soros dollars and Planned Parenthood dollars and LGBT and women's rights organization dollars. These nonprofits are taking their monies and putting them behind particular journalists at these publications. So the information that we're getting is quite biased and has an agenda behind them. So I don't trust black media. You know, Ebony, Essence, The Root. Um, you know, if you look at Thomas Sowell, right? Thomas Sowell is one of the most notable figures in economics, period, let alone being black.
Yep.
And you know, when you take his name and you run it across these publications, Ebony, Essence, Black Enterprise Magazine, and Root, etc., you see nothing about him. He doesn't have like an award. They don't applaud him. Anytime he's on there, it's mostly just like, oh, look at this coon, you know, look at this Uncle Tom, that
Yeah.
type of stuff. But it's never like highlight Thomas Sowell, you know, great black mind. That's never been done before.
All right. So I asked the audience, did they have any final set of questions? They
Somebody
did.
asked, what book has most influenced my current worldview? I would have to say, Behold the Pale Horse.
Good book. That's a really good book.
Yeah, it's a little tinfoil hattish, but it'll open your eyes. I'll say that much.
I guess if they're not going to ask the final question, I'll ask one. How was it being able to meet up with Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, Amazing Lucas, Kevin Corner, and the others at the Turning Point, the Black Influencers Summit? How was that?
Oh, it was surprisingly fun. You know, like I told them, you know, I expected to go there and be in a room full of people that I didn't like. And surprisingly, I liked majority of the people in that room, almost everyone, with just a few exceptions. Candace was a pleasant voice, a pleasant heart. I enjoyed her. I enjoyed uh, the Harrises. It's three Harrises. The Harrises, the Hayes brothers, Amazing Lucas. Um, you know, like James T. Harris, that's the OG. So James T. Harris came up to me and he was like, "Yo, my son loves you." Da 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 da. Da. And you know, I did a video drop for his son and everything. So knowing that like an OG Black conservative, you know, loves me is kind of like so fulfilling. I'm just like, wow, like you the OG to all of this, and he's looking at me like I'm somebody, you know. So that felt great. But you know, just being in a room of great minds, you know, all Black conservatives, which you know for some time I thought just didn't exist, was great and fulfilling and just felt good, man. You know, you like you're in a room full of people and you can have a conversation, and the conversations were just great, both inside the meeting room and outside the meeting room, at dinner and wherever. You know, it's just really great conversations with people that are on the same page as you, and you could just build with. You know, and I learned a lot from those guys as well too. You know, whether it's from business or politics, but you know, at the networking aspect, you know, it's just a great networking opportunity. Period.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to Candace has a project she's dropping within about 6 weeks. It's pretty top secret. We're not allowed to say anything. Otherwise, she'll shoot us. It's like, nah. But nah, it's pretty top secret. And I think we're about 6 weeks out, maybe 5 weeks, including this one, before she releases it. But, you know, look out for that. It's going to be a really, really huge impact.
Awesome, man. I'd love to have her on the show. I have no way of I don't know how to contact her because I know she gets so much stuff on Twitter. I could
Go through
probably
Brandon.
text.
Go through Brandon.
Oh, I should text him about that.
Yeah, go through Brandon.
All right, man. That's just about that's all the questions I have, man. It was an honor. Oh, wait. Mike Nificent. Why you wait till now to say something? All right. So Mike Nificent, final question goes to you. He asks, do you think we can flip the black vote?
Hell no. The good news though is that we don't need to flip the black vote, as it was told to me by Charlie Kirk. You know, we only need 4% of the Democratic black votes to come over to the red side, and that would equal an 8% swing because they lose 4% and we gain 4%. So we don't need the whole black vote to flip. We just need 4% to leave the Democrats and come over to the Republicans, and I think that's definitely doable.
Hmm. All right, man. That just about wraps up everything I got, man. Why don't you go ahead, tell everyone where they can find you, plug your book, and everything that they need to know. What's some projects you got coming up?
Yeah, so shout out to Doe Dubes, Lola and Doe Soaps. That's a Hotep company. He's the president of Hotep Nation. You can visit our website at hotepnation.com. Hotep's Been Told You every Thursday at 8 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Just type in Hotep's Been Told You. And that's with my friend, my buddy, my co-host, Uncle Hotep. So you guys can check that out. We stream live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Thursday. Of course, get my books at booksbybrian.com. Go get your Hotep gear at hotepnation.com/shop. And if you want to donate, all we're asking for is $1 a month. And that's at patreon.com/hotepnation.
That's what's up, man. Man, and actually, Uncle Hotep, he came through on he was in the chat for a little bit. He came through.
Oh, dope. That's what's up. Uncle Hotep, what up?
Man, that's a huge honor for me too, man, because I'm a fan of his as well. I'd love to get him on the channel someday on the podcast. All right, guys, and that just about wraps up this podcast. Again, I want to thank Hotep Jesus again. It's a massive honor having you on the podcast, my man. Thank you for coming through. Make sure you guys, all the links to his stuff will be down in the description below, so make sure you come through and you follow him. Definitely give the man a follow on Twitter, and go be there for his podcast as well. And with that being said, this podcast will be available on iTunes, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, and Stitcher. Within the next 2 hours, it'll be up, so it'll be there for your listening pleasure. And I want to thank y'all for coming through. We'll catch you on the next one. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and make this go viral. And with that being said, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber signing out with the one and only Hotep Jesus.